Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the Apex Gaming $2,000 Pioneer Open. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
We have one round in the books, but we got a heater coming up for you. Ross, why don't you give us a rundown of who we're going to be watching in round number 2 and what decks they're playing?
We are going to be watching a Rakdos mirror, which I know sounds boring, but I promise you
Rakdos
it is not.
mirror.
Because Jonathan Custer, while he has brought Rakdos cards, has brought a very different Blood Crypt strategy, playing Transmogrify into Atraxa Grand Unifier. So we've seen, creativity decks of various stripes. Never quite seen it in Rakdos. You still get to play Fable, obviously in red. Also playing Life of Toshiro Umezawa as a saga that turns into a creature. Urabrask's Forge generates creatures that you can transmogrify. Also an artifact to hit off of Atraxa.
Yes.
And
That card's just good, I think.
And the sagas are enchantments. And then a healthy amount of disruption. 4 Thoughtseize, 1 Duress, 4 Fatal Push, 3 Volcanic Spite to go for the throat, 1 Abrade, 1 Heartless Act. And also a couple copies of Ob Nixilis the Adversary.
Yeah, another thing that can make a creature without being a creature itself.
Yeah, and sacrificing the Urabrask's Forge token to make a copy of Ob Nixilis is a very nice synergy. So spread out the types so Atraxa is maximized. Play a more controlling role where Transmogrify is sort of your card advantage engine and your win condition all wrapped up into one because of Atraxa's powerful trigger and sizable body.
Let that be a lesson for you, chat. If you want to come play on the Apex series, bring a cool deck. You might be a feature match because Ross just kind of picked this one out of a hat. I've never seen this guy before in my life.
Yeah, and Custer is going to be playing against JT on Rakdos Sacrifice. This is the most common Rakdos deck in the format, but built to play a sort of grindy game. Not sure if it's built to beat Atraxa because you can't Fatal Push it, you can't claim the Firstborn it.
Yeah, it's tough. All right, well, the players are ready down in the feature match area. Let's see who takes it down between the Rakdos Transmog and Rakdos Sac. 2 flavors of Rakdos, one great taste.
Now, Fatal Push can be used to break up the Transmogrify.
Right.
So Jonathan Custer is going to have to be wary of that. Claim the Firstborn being a sorcery will not be an issue.
All right, JT going to be starting off here with a Thoughtseize. Takes a look at opening hand. Go for a throat. Volcanic Spite. And one of the sagas, the Life of Toshiro Umezawa. And 4 lands. Not the best opening hand for Jonathan Custer. The removal spells are quite weak against Rakdos Sacrifice in general. Both of them do take care of Mayhem Devil specifically, and that is basically the only creature worth killing.
You got to kill Goblin Shamans and Reflections of Kiki as well.
That's true.
But it's really just the 3 drops.
All right, let's get the Life of Umezawa on the screen because I want to make sure that I say this right and make sure I know exactly what it does. This is a brand new saga from last year's
Kamigawa Neon Dynasty.
Neon Dynasty set, yes. And this is one of the few sagas that can actually make a creature. And for 2 mana, it seems like it does a ton of stuff. You get to choose one on chapters 1 and 2, and you get to basically choose one of each of the Umezawa Jitte abilities from the original Kamigawa. So a nice little callback to that. Shrinking a creature to kill it, gaining some life, or giving creatures +2/+2. In this instance, with no targets, likely just going to gain 2 life twice. But if JT plays a creature that he can shrink or kill with it, that might be pretty good too.
Yeah, a good card at clearing up early mana creatures from certain decks, or an early human, like a recruitment officer or something like that. So a little bit of early functionality. At the worst case scenario, you gain a little bit of life, and then comes in as a creature that can help you cast your Transmogrify, help you cast some removal spells, or mainly just turn into Atraxa.
All right, well, we have Bloodtithe Harvester for JT starting the beat down early. Looking a lot more like regular Rakdos with this start.
They overlap quite a bit.
It's because Rakdos just has a bunch of really strong cards. Here's a second Bloodtithe Harvester. The pressure's on. Custer here going to go ahead and fire off the Go for Throat.
Yeah, forced to use the removal spells early to keep his life total high. There is a Mayhem Devil back in the hand for JT. And it looks like a Fatal Push and a Witch's Oven.
Here's Urabrask's Forge. Let's get that one on the screen. This one's from Phyrexia. All will be one, and it is a powerful damage engine. But for this deck specifically, it's mostly there just to generate some creatures for Transmogrify. Against a slower opponent or an opponent who is very interactive, this card is going to pile on the damage over time because all of the X1s do have Trample and Haste.
Yeah, you get to deal damage in triangular numbers. Sum of the numbers from 1 to n.
You're such a dork. I love it. All right. what we got here. If you're Rakdos Sacrifice and you're reading Urbrass Forge for the first time, you're gonna have a bad time. I think this card could single-handedly take over the game if Custer can just contain some of these threats. But Mayhem Devil, Blood Tithe Harvester, they are 3-power creatures that can do some serious damage.
Yeah, JT here knows about the other removal spell, still elects to run out this Mayhem Devil, so that is likely going to eat some removal here.
Okay, well, the shields are down. Let's see if there's a Transmogrify. No, we do go for Volcanic Spite. That's going to kill the Mayhem Devil. We're going to put a card on the bottom and draw. So, scary thing out of the way.
Looks like a Thoughtseize.
All right, counter number 2 on the Urbrass Forge. We're going to attack for 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. Relentless aggression.
Yeah, so JT at 13. This is a 4-turn clock with just the Urabrask Forge tokens, and you only need 1 extra damage to turn it into a 3-turn clock.
All right, the life of Toshiro Umezawa going to enter on chapter 1 and gain 2 life. Going to save Custer a little bit of health here while threatening to kill a 1 toughness creature next turn if that's something JT wanted to deploy. Here comes Witch's Oven. This is nice with Cauldron Familiar and Claim the Firstborn, but pretty weak against what Custer's doing on the other side right now.
Yeah, JT's hand is just 3 removal spells, 2 copies of Fatal Push and a Claim the Firstborn. The Fatal Pushes will keep any Transmogrifies at bay, but this Urbrask Forge is threatening to take over the game by itself.
Yeah, and Custer here looks like he's drawn a Thoughtseize for turn, but also has access to a Silkenzon Crucible in hand. He can use that to make even more tokens to pressure later. Thoughtseize takes care of Claim the Firstborn. 2 Fatal Pushes left in hand, which can buy some time for JT when he gets a little low from the Urbrass Forge, but it's going to be coming at him every turn until he can deal with it.
Man, this is such a cool deck list. I'm looking at the mana base for Custer. Has 4 Mutavault and 3 Murex.
Yeah, Murex is a nice one. Making those mites is great for Transmogrify.
Does not have any way in the mana base to hard cast an Atraxa. Is going to need to make treasures off of Fable tokens. Or potentially cast Gigantha. That'll cast it. That'll help you cast an Atraxa.
All right, well, the life of Toshiro Umezawa turns into the memory of Toshiro Umezawa. The backside can tap for mana. It does have Summoning Sickness this turn. Remember, this is a common. This Saga is not overly powerful, but it's a 2-cost Saga that can do a lot of little things like kill Llanowar Elves while also gaining life in some matchups when your opponent's aggressive and doesn't have great targets. And then it turns into a creature for Transmogrify. So a lot to love about this cool Saga. And we have a second copy here. We're going to gain 2 more life.
Yeah, and this has really helped the Urabrask's Forge because we're in a racing game. So it's gaining a little bit of extra life against this pile of Blood Tithe Harvesters that JT has drawn, has allowed Jonathan Custer to buy the time for this Forge to start ticking up and making really big tokens.
All right, chat. You're watching Urabrask's Forge do some dirty. Why don't you go pick some up and try it today? I played it in a Gruul deck when it first came out with some Llanowar Elves. Playing on turn 2. It's pretty good against control decks and grindy removal decks. And here it's just doing some serious damage.
Yeah, every extra turn you have the Forge in play because it keeps ramping up. Every turn that you can get it down earlier than normal effectively gives you the higher end later on in the game. So you're getting, 4, 5, 6 extra damage out of it because of the last extra turn that you otherwise would not have reached.
All right, well, now JT has to consider the Urbrass Forge threatening lethal next turn with the Might token. I'm going to play and tap out 4, another Blood Tithe Harvester. Shields are down.
That's quads, right? One of them got killed earlier?
Yeah, let's see if Jonathan Custer can kill this thing and move on to game number 2 victory. Oh, go for the throat. That's going to do it. Goes up to 5. We're going to attack 5. 6 damage coming across.
I think he noticed it. Right. He was about to only attack with the Urabrask Forge token, but then he looked over at his boogie board there at the life totals. Like, you know what? Why don't I attack with both and kill the blocker?
Yeah, no Transmogrify needed here for Jonathan Custer and Urabrask's Forge showing off in game number 1 of our second round feature match. That Urbrass Forge looked quite impressive against the heavy interaction and light aggression from the Rakdos Sacrifice deck.
And we might have to change the name on our overlay there.
Oh.
Rakdos Forge.
Yeah, Forge. Yeah, Rakdos Forge is a cooler name anyway.
Okay, looking at sideboards here for Jonathan Custer, we have 3 copies of Duress, 2 Sire of Insanity, so can shift what he wants to transmogrify into if he decides on that. 2 Rending Volley, 2 Extinction Event, 2 Unlicensed Hearse, 1 Void Winnower, 1 Noxious Grasp, 1 Go Blank, and of course the Gigantha, the Wellspring as a companion.
I can't even with you, Ross.
I don't know. I don't know if I want any of these. The hearse can sometimes catch cats in the graveyard, but it's hard to do that if they already have oven.
Yeah, I try to tell people that graveyard removal effects like unlicensed serfs are often weak against cat oven, specifically because if it's face up in play, so they can play around it all the time, right? I don't know. I mean, if there's nothing
Yeah.
coming in, that's fine. What about Void Winnower? Right? Can't even.
Yeah, but they can still Fable and they can still Mayhem Devil
Yeah.
and Cat Oven.
Yeah.
Like their curve is more concentrated at 1 and 3 than
Yeah,
it
but you
is at
didn't
2.
acknowledge my joke.
Yeah, I didn't because it was bad.
Wow, I can't even with you, Ross. All right. Well, we do have another sideboard to look at, Ross. Why don't you give us your insight into this Rakdos Sacrifice deck from JT and what you think he's going to be bringing in to fight the weirdo Transmog deck that he's beaten against?
After that game 1, JT is definitely the one that's going to look more into his sideboard. So also as a Gigantha companion, see 3 copies of Furnace Rains, 2 Meat Hook Massacre, 2 Duress, 2 Rending Volley, 2 Obnixilis the Adversary, 1 Colligan's Command, 1 Unlicensed Hearse, and 1 Eaten Alive. So I think this is a matchup where you're going to have to play a longer game. So I like the Obnixilis, I like the Duresses, and I like the Colligan's Command as a 2-for-1 that is also an answer to Urabrask's Forge.
All right. Well, good insight there from Ross. He's played a lot of Magic, so I always want to listen when he talks about sideboarding.
Yeah, I imagine a lot of that spot removal will be coming out that was
Right.
not very effective.
Right.
You can leave in some number of Fatal Pushes since Fatal Push is an effective counter for
Yeah.
Transmogrify itself.
Cheesing the Transmog.
And you need some answers to Fable tokens. This is a Fable mirror, so maybe all the Fatal Pushes get left in, but the sorcery speed removal, claim the Firstborn,
Yes.
and the other active treason style effects in the sideboard like Furnace Rains, definitely not being left in the deck or coming in.
All right, as these players are shuffling up here for game number 2, want to take a moment and shout out the Scry Babies. That's Tori of the Vast in the back left corner. You can see she's playing some Rakdos midrange today. They actually just started a new competitive channel called Scry Babies 60. You can check that out on YouTube, and they're going to start playing a lot of competitive Magic, actually, which is kind of cool.
Ooh.
Normally, they're into the Commander stuff.
Getting into the weeds.
Oh, yeah. Love to see it. And, she chose maybe one of the 2 best decks in the whole format to play today. So Tori's a pretty competitive person, I guess. Yeah.
Rakdos midrange has fallen off a little bit in Pioneer, but definitely still one of the most played decks. Looking at our metagame today, it is tied for 3rd.
What's the most played deck?
Mono Green Devotion.
Okay, fair.
Rakdos Sacrifice is 2nd at 4 copies. There's 3 Rakdos midranges. You
All
could
right.
kind of say 4 Rakdos midrange because we do have somebody playing Jund midrange. Very similar deck.
Whoa! Did you see what the green cards were?
I know one of them is Mosswood Dread Knight.
That's sick. I love Mosswood Dread Knight. I immediately put it into my Tyvar Sacrifice deck when I first saw it the day number 1. I just spent 2 hours just like working on decks with it. It's awesome.
Yeah, unfortunately, Lawrence McKee lost round 1.
Dang.
So, gonna need to rally here if he wants to get himself on camera and into our top 8.
All right, JT did take a mulligan to 6. We'll see if he's happier with the 6. I see a claim the Firstborn. Looks like JT left those in. Perhaps going to bite him because Custer doesn't have a lot of great targets, just a bunch of token generators.
Yeah, this is not a matchup where you want a ton of removal. You'd rather have your proactive elements.
Right, you want to go Cat Oven, you want to go Mayhem Devil, Blood Tithe Harvester. He actually almost raced the Urbrass Forge in game number 1, but Custer's deck full of 1 and 2 mana spell removal was able to clean him up pretty good, and the Urbrass Forge took it down basically by itself.
And the life of Toshiro's.
Absolutely.
Generating blockers and getting 4 life a clip.
Yeah,
It was
and
just hard to
making
race.
a 2/3 blocker on the backside that, forced removal from the other side.
Yep. All good things.
All right, JT gonna put one on the bottom. Gonna tank on it.
I see Witch's Oven and Mayhem Devil. Looks like the Oven is going to the bottom. I think there's a claim the Firstborn in the middle of his hand, too.
Yeah.
Not one I like to see. Yeah, send that one to the bottom.
Yeah, Ob Nixilis, the adversary, a nice one in these grindy matchups. We'll see if Custer has an early thought seize to strip it.
Now, as
Bang.
narrow as Claim is in this matchup, it can be quite good against Fable the Mirror Breaker,
Right.
either taking their Goblin Shaman or taking their Reflection and then using it against them. But yeah, definitely the weakest card in this opening hand.
All right, adversary, Mayhem Devil, Blood Tithe Harvester, and Blood Crypt is the hand for JT. Custer gonna take the Planeswalker. That 3-mana Planeswalker is quite strong. Let's get Ob Nixilis, the adversary, up on stream because that's one of my favorite Planeswalkers from New Capenna. It allowed you to sack a creature when you play it with Casualty X to get a second copy of it. You know, playing one Planeswalker and getting 2 iterations of it is pretty sweet.
Yeah, and then you just sort of spam those +1 abilities and start whittling down your opponent's hand or whittling down their life total, and both are quite useful. So this is sort of their card for the grindy matchups, Todd. It's for the grindy matchups.
Big raid from Young Dingo. Thank you so much, Young Dingo. You know, he was a special guest at our last Magic weekend that we had here last month. And we're looking forward to having him at the Lorcana Invitational that we're having on October 20th as well.
Yeah, gave us the raid yesterday, so we appreciate the support and welcome Raiders. This is round 2 of 6 here at the Apex Gaming Pioneer $2,000 Open Apex Invitational Qualifier and Regional Championship Qualifier.
All right, here's the Volcanic Spite. That's going to knock off Mayhem Devil, but Blood Tithe Harvester still pressuring. We'll see if Custer can find a way to take it out. And he does. Find Fatal Push, and the board is clear. JT down to just 1 card.
And that is exactly what Jonathan Custer likes. He's got a very strong late game with this Transmogrify into Traxa. If he can find Urbrax's Forge, Fable the Mirror Breaker, anything like that, he can quickly take over the game. Just needs to make sure he survives to find his heavy hitters.
Big top deck from JT. Finds Deadly Dispute. That's going to draw 2 cards by sacking the Blood token. We're going to replace it with a treasure. And now we find Cauldron Familiar.
And a Sulphurous Springs.
And a Den of the Bugbear. Nice.
Okay, Den can do some stuff.
Jay not playing the Cauldron Familiar, maybe doesn't want to expose it to exile removal without having the Witches of it in play.
Yeah, and there is an Unlicensed Hearse in Custer's hand, so wise from JT to hold back that kitty.
All right, here's a Fable of the Mirror Breaker from Custer, and that is going to generate some real pressure for JT. Not only does the 2 different 2/2 bodies play great in this longer attrition matchup, but being able to turn a couple of dead lands in hand into fresh spells is potentially backbreaking. And JT has a land number 5 here, so could fire up the Den of the Bugbear, but looks pretty weak in the face of this Goblin token that can just trade for it.
Yeah, so could buy the Gigantha. Hasn't claimed the Firstborn, but no way to sacrifice. So really nothing impressive going on JT's side of the battlefield here.
Yeah, if I'm JT, I'm probably just buying Gigantha this turn. I think that's the best use of your resources. But if he fires up the Den of the Bugbear and attacks, I wouldn't be too surprised. Getting the Goblin Shaman off the table and preventing the treasure generation is reasonable. But, I mean, the shields are down. Custer can just have Transmog next turn and go get a Traxa, and then the game's way over.
Very, very over.
All right, Gigantha's the buy. Can't cast it this turn. Claim the Firstborn, doesn't deal with it, just attacks for 2 and gains a treasure. Cauldron Familiar doesn't block it, just drains a life. We're going to go ahead and play it.
Okay, that is, yeah, not going to have much impact here. We'll see if Custer can find a removal spell and then exile it, and then doesn't really have to fear a Witch's Oven later on.
All right, Chapter 2. Going to discard a land, only discarding 1. His card in hand is Thoughtseize. You might want to take care of that Gigantha now. We're going to go ahead and attack.
Yeah, decided to keep the Thoughtseize and the Unlicensed Hearse, both reasonable cards, and we've got some action going on with the Fable. So pitches the 1 land, unfortunately finds another one off the top.
Is that a Tom the Boss Ross Infect token hiding up there?
Yeah.
I haven't seen one of those in a long time. I used to love that token. I still do. He actually made me a little one with a top hat on it.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, here's Thoughtseize. Gigantha down. We have Unlicensed Hearse.
I bet Tom looks pretty good in the top hat.
Oh, yeah. You bet. You know, he's from Louisiana originally, and I gotta say, like, I could really see Tom as, like, a bad Cajun guy. You know, like a bad guy in a Disney movie or something.
Like evil Gambit.
Yeah. He makes a really good infect token, I'll tell you what. All right, here's a big attack from JT, and Custer shields are down. The Unlicensed unable to do much about it. And you got to think maybe attacking with the Goblin Shaman last turn was incorrect.
Yeah, pretty aggressive here, and it allowed the Den of the Bugbear to come and crack back. So that's 5 damage coming across, and Custer's life total is getting a little precarious.
Yep. All right, down to 7. Now, the Reflection of the Kiki Jiki is going to transform, and we're going to have some defense. The Unlicensed Hearse is going to eat some stuff in the graveyard.
So now with just the Reflection and the Hearse up, you threaten to crew the 2/2 Hearse, block, then before damage, activate the Hearse, exile 2 more cards, make it a 4/4, eat your Den.
All right, draws for the turn, just a Mutavault. Another land in hand is the other card. And we're going to transform Reflection and probably play Mutavault and pass the turn.
Plenty of creature lands in this mana base for Custer in order to maximize the effectiveness of Transmogrify. 4 copies of Mutavault and 3 of Murex. So a lot of utility going along. Just not the normal creature lands that you expect.
All right, Custer here. Thumbing the Goblin token, seeing if he wants to attack, and he does. He has 2 blockers. Oh, balk. He balked. All right. Back JT's way, no attack. A lot of tokens on the battlefield. One of them's a Goblin on Custer's side. Treasure token on the left-hand side.
That's a Fatal Push drawn for JT, so if he sends in with the Den and Custer goes for the Unlicensed Hearse block, you can now Fatal Push that Unlicensed Hearse and get it off the battlefield.
All right, we'll see how Custer wants to defend. The Mutavault, the Reflection, and the Goblin all can block. We can animate the Hearse to block as well.
A little awkward tapping there for JT. Tapped to Sulphurous Springs for red to leave out the Blood Crypt. Could have used the Blood Crypt for red and still left up either the Pathway or the Swamp for this Fatal Push.
All right, Mutavault gets animated. We're going to move to blocks. Okay, we're going to animate the Hearse. And before the Hearse can block, we're going to Fatal Push. And doesn't eat anything in the graveyard here, but no harm, no foul. I don't think there's a cat in there or anything.
Yeah, nothing super relevant. Still is going to be able to trade for this Den and then eat one of the 1/1s.
Yep. And then we're going to take 2 damage down to 5, but now JT's forces are decimated. Last card in hand, I believe, is still Claim the Firstborn?
Yeah, but
could be kind of scary with that Reflection.
Yeah, Claim the Firstborn could end up stealing this game if Custer gets a little too aggressive.
All right, we're going to copy the Goblin Shaman.
So if Custer doesn't have any interaction or blockers, he's attacking all out here, the Claim is going to get JT up to 4 power, so just 1 damage short.
Yeah, but there's a lot of ways to deal 1 damage in the Rakdos Sacrifice deck.
Yeah, any way to make a food token because that cat is in the graveyard.
Right. Okay, so we're going to go. Oh, Transmogrify. What a top deck from Custer.
That's game.
Spin the wheel, Raggedy Man.
It's different every time.
Oh, yeah. Is it? Deterministic Atraxa. Let's get Atraxa on the screen because Atraxa is the big baddie that's going to be peeling cards off the top of the deck. This is one of the best reanimation, cheaty face targets in the whole game of Magic the Gathering. Allows you to look at the top 10 cards of your library. You get to choose one of every card type. That's enchantment, artifact, instant, sorcery, creature, land, yada, yada, yada. And when we look through it, we usually get 4 or 5 cards if you build your deck around it.
Yeah, Custer has certainly built his list with Atraxa in mind, has those Obnixiluses as a planeswalker, has Urabrask's Forge as an artifact, has various sagas like Fable and Life of Toshiro as enchantments, has instant speed removal, sorcery speed discard, and of course plenty of lands. So should be able to get a good number of cards off of this trigger, and it looks like he's picking out 4 of them.
All right, we got Mutavault, Fatal Push, Urbrask Forge, Transmog. Could even back up Transmog, the Atraxa, just to go for another Atraxa to get more cards, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Also sort of untaps your Atraxa after you attack with it.
Well, it has Vigilance, so you don't have to do that. I know that specifically because my opponents would use it to beat me when I'm playing Convoke. JT packs it in, draws a land, and Jonathan Custer with Rakdos Transmog, maybe the most exciting deck in the room, takes down round number 2, and is starting off 2-0